Okay, so here's a brief introduction to Microsoft Excel 2013. The first thing I wanted to show you was the operators and formulas you can use in Excel. So for addition, what we're going to do is we're going to click on E2, and to do a formula, the first thing you do is you type the equal sign. Then you click on the cell you want. So this first cell here is B2 plus C2, and then you hit the plus and then D2. So this is a formula. We're going to add the first three cells here. And then once you're finished entering your formula, you press this check mark and it'll automatically calculate what the addition of the first cell, second cell, and the third cell are. Okay, so subtraction is a similar thing. So click on the cell where you want to put the formula. Press equals. Click on that cell. Then hit the minus key. Then the next cell. And then the last cell. And when you're finished, press enter. And then for multiplication, the operator is going to be the asterisk. So to do that, you're going to do equals, then this cell times this cell times the last cell. Enter. And if you notice here, the columns are labeled with letters and the rows are labeled by numbers. Okay, so then here for division, the division sign is going to be the forward slash. So then do equals this cell divided by C5 divided by D5. And then press enter. Excel also comes with many built-in functions that you can use rather than having to develop your own formulas like we were doing here earlier. So let me show you some of those. Okay, so to do the sum, rather than having to do B2 plus C2 plus D2, what we can do instead is click on the cell where you want to enter your function, press the equal sign, equal key, then you can type the name of the function if you know the name. So in this case, this will be the sum function. And then open parentheses. And then rather than clicking on each cell, we can actually input a cell range instead. So you would start with B2 and then click and drag all the way to D2. And then you'll see here that now we're using a range instead. And the colon is a symbol for range. So anything between B2 and D2, we want the sum. When you finish entering the argument that goes into this function, go ahead and close the do the other parentheses. So go ahead and close it out. Once you're finished entering your function, press the checkbox here, and we'll get the sum. So we can also do that for the average as well. So again, equals average, then select the range, close the parentheses, press enter. And then for max, it'll give us the maximum value of this range, within this range. So then we would do equals max, open parentheses, get the range, close the parentheses, press enter. So the highest value is 8. And there's also a min function as well. And then count will count the number of cells in the range. So to do a count, you do equals count, get the range, close the parentheses, press enter. Next, I would like to demonstrate the autofill feature in Microsoft Excel. So let me show you here. let's say we have to type out a number list. So let's say we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say we have to do that all the way to 100. Rather than having to type it out, Excel, what it can do is you select the first two cells, and then based on the difference between these two, it can generate the number list for you instead. So here the difference is 1, so then the next numbers will be incremented by 1. So to do an autofill, select the two cells, then put your cursor here on the bottom right hand corner, and then just click and drag, and then you'll see that the numbers are being incremented for you. So we'll go maybe all the way to 15. And then you can do that all the way to 100, 1000, however many numbers you need. Here's another example. The same thing. So the difference between 5 and 10 is 5. So then when we autofill, it'll increment the next numbers by 5. So again, to do autofill, select the first two cells, put your cursor on the bottom right corner, and then just drag it down. You see, so now it's incremented by 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Okay, the other thing you can do is you can also autofill formulas. But in order to autofill formulas, we have to understand the difference between a relative reference and an absolute reference. A relative reference is relative to the position where the cell is and which formula you're going to be inputting into the cell. So for instance here, go ahead and press the, I'm going to create the formula here. So then I'm going to do equals, and then I'm going to add this cell, A2 plus B2, and then press enter. If we autofill this, since we're using a relative reference, the row will change based on the cell we're in. So this will, the next formula, if we autofill, would be A3 plus B3, and then the next one would be A4 plus B4, and so on. So let me show you. Here we'll do autofill, and then each based on the position of the cell, so it knows it incremented the row by 1. So then it knows to add A3 plus B3. And then in this cell it knows to add A4 plus B4. And then we can see that happening in all the different formulas that are here. And we didn't have to type it out. We just simply autofill. But relative reference isn't always appropriate. In this example here, for absolute reference, let's say we tried the same thing. So here I'm going to add the first cell plus F2, which is this cell, and then press enter. But let's say I want to add 2 to every other number here, but 2 is only written out in one place. If I autofill here, we just get the same number because it's adding 10 plus here where there's no value, so it's just adding 10 plus 0. So 10 plus 0 equals 10, 15 plus 0 equals 15, 20 plus 0 equals 20. But the thing is, we want to add 2 to this number instead. So we can still autofill, but before we autofill, we need to make an absolute reference. So this cell here, F2, is the one that has the value that is not going to change. Right? So we need to make the reference to this cell, we need to make it absolute. To do that, first we can lock the column. So when we autofill, the column won't change. But then we also need to lock the row because we don't want the row to change either. So to do that, click between the F and the 2, put the $, and now we have an absolute reference for F2, which would be $F, $2. Press enter. Now by autofill, this every number here, because the reference to this number is relative, however the reference to the F2 is absolute, meaning that it doesn't change. So then now by autofill, we should get the correct values. Okay, so then now 10 plus 2 equals 12, 15 plus 2 equals 17, 20 plus 2 equals 22, and so on. So now it's correct.